Okay, and for everyone else who's joined us, thank you for being here. My name is Brendy Vega. I'm a planner with WithersRavenel, and we are representing Mungo Homes in this rezoning effort. And Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Caroline Richardson with Withers. Just so you know, we're going to be using the Q&A box today. That should be at the bottom right on your screen. If you click the three little dots, this is not the same as the chat function. So we use the Q&A box so that we can record questions and answers a little bit easier. But after the presentation, we'll go through some of the chat questions, and we'll unmute phone-in users one by one just to make sure we get any remaining questions.
Okay, and Brad?
Hey everybody, my name's Brad Hart. I'm also with WithersRavenel. I'm a senior project manager and working with Mungo Homes to present this project to you guys.
Okay, so as you have questions while we're going through the presentation, as Caroline said, please drop those in the Q&A. You'll find it in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and she will get to those questions when we finish the presentation. If you could go to the next slide, Julie. And Julie might be helping this other person, so. All right, next slide. Okay, so I'm going to go over the rezoning process with the City of Raleigh. As some of you may know, this property or these properties are actually currently in Wake County and are not in the City of Raleigh ETJ or the City of Raleigh corporate limits. We met with Wake County, and this is in the Raleigh Future Service area. So therefore, we are required to go through the Raleigh process. And that means an amendment to the comprehensive plan, an annexation, and a rezoning. So where we are right now is we've had a pre-application conference. We are technically at the first neighborhood meeting, although this is our third meeting for this project. Some of you were not notified for the first two meetings because the project was smaller the first two times. Julie, if we could go to the next, oh, I'm sorry, let me finish the process first. We have submitted an application to the City of Raleigh. Although we will have to resubmit an application with the two new parcels that we're adding, and I'll mention those a little bit later. We have had staff review, but we'll have another staff review coming forward with the addition of the two new parcels. Then we will have a second neighborhood meeting. This neighborhood meeting notifies people within 500 feet of the project site. The second neighborhood meeting will notify people, property owners, and tenants within 1,000 feet of the site. And that's done through mailings and posted signage. So you may have seen a sign posted, or you may have received a letter. The next step would be to go to the Planning Commission, where they will have public meetings where you will be invited to speak. That may be one meeting, it may be more than one meeting. Ultimately, they'll make a recommendation to council. And then at City Council, you will have another opportunity to speak at their public hearing. They have optional committee meetings, so they may send this to committee, they may not. And then there's final action. So there's still a lot of opportunities for you all to comment on this process. And we encourage you to reach out to us or City of Raleigh staff, which I know some people have been reaching out to us or city staff with concerns or comments or just general what's going on questions. So we encourage you to continue to do that. On the next slide, this shows the parcels that are included in the 533 plus or minus acres out here. So you'll see to the north is Pool Road. Hodge Road bisects the site, and Noose Road is on the west. And what you don't see here is future 540, but we'll show you that in a little bit. So this area is in Wake County. Now I'm going to go to the next slide. What we can tell you about the existing conditions of this site is that there is a City of Raleigh public sanitary sewer easement to the west. There's a City of Raleigh access easement through the site. There is a cell tower, and some of you may know where that's at and help you orient you to the site. The future 540 right-of-way is closer to the east of the site. And there are several ponds around here. There are some stream buffers as well. So on the next slide, you'll see the existing zoning. It may seem a little confusing because you have Raleigh zoning. So west of the stream is Raleigh zoning, and east of the stream is Wake County zoning. So this parcel is all currently zoned R30 Wake County, which is residential 30. On the next slide, you'll see the proposed zoning. And so we are proposing to rezone the northern portion of this site to RX, which is a mixed district, and the southern portion that's adjacent to many existing residents to an R10, which is residential 10. Those are both Raleigh zonings. And as I mentioned before, we will have to annex and get a comprehensive plan approval in order to submit. It will all have to get approved. Basically, it will be comp plan amendment, then annexation, and then zoning. And whether those will all occur in one meeting or 2 or 3 meetings, we don't know yet. Okay, on the next slide, you can see some of the conditions that have made this area ripe for development. We all know that Wake County is a growing county. You know, always at the top of lists for best places to move, best places to live. And with Google and Apple making announcements that they are coming to the Triangle, it's no surprise that this is a growing area for residential and other uses. So the City of Raleigh has a interceptor project, sewer interceptor project. And this is as shown here in green and partly red along the western boundary of the site. So that is currently underway. On the next slide, 540 is the right-of-way has been pretty much determined to be in this location. And I believe they are going through right-of-way acquisition at this time. So it's a little hard to see on this slide, but you can see where 540 has an interchange here at Pool Road and not far from Hodge Road. On this plan, you can also see another street that we are proposing that will come into the site. So it will not just be served by Hodge Road. There will be another collector. On the next slide, this is currently the City of Raleigh Future Land Use Plan. This is in the Southeast Area Special Study. I may have said that wrong, but Southeast Special Study Area. So as you can see, this does show some of the current Wake County and when we spoke to Wake County, they looked to us to go to the City of Raleigh for our land use plan amendment and our meetings with the City of Raleigh. It kind of solidified the idea that we would go to the City of Raleigh and not Wake County. So currently it does show some commercial along Pool Road and the rest of it residential. The idea that this area will remain majority residential, the parcels is in keeping. It will just be a different kind of residential. So the only commercial proposed on this site would be on the west side. And if you can go to the next slide, Julie. So here we have broken it up into pods. In slide A, you can see that it says mixed use. So we're proposing up to 10,000 square feet of mixed use in that area, as well as a large amenity site for this master planned development. In the light yellow, single family residential is proposed. So the density increases as we get closer to Pool Road and 540. So you'll see pods B, E, and D are shown as either compact single family, townhomes, or cottage court. In G and C, those areas we're showing as multifamily or townhomes. On here, you'll see a general street network. That street network is preliminary. We are requesting a comprehensive plan amendment for the transportation plan as well. So the road to the west is a new collector road that will come in from Pool Road. And then Hodge Road is currently shown as a 4-lane median divided. We have proposed to change that to a 2-lane median divided at this time. Originally, the thought was that it would not continue south to Auburn Knightdale Road. Conversations between the city and DOT may change that. So there is a possibility that it may remain a 4-lane median divided. But at this time, we are requesting the 2-lane median divided. On the east side of 540, the only way to get to the site at this time is through the collector street or side street that DOT is putting in this area to access the site that is cut off basically by the addition of 540. I do want to point out, Julie, if you could go back to slide 4, that there are some communities near this site that have raised concerns about, so it'd be the aerial exhibit, Julie. So some communities have raised concerns that they may be annexed or they may become part of the project. So if you're here today worried about that, I can assure you that there is no intent to annex anyone. I believe we have a couple mobile home parks where we've heard a lot of concerns. So if you're to the east there, and I think maybe the existing zoning map might show that better. So there are some different residential areas. There's a mobile home park to the east, to the north, and adjacent to the site. So there is no intent to annex those. The only way annexation can happen is if you are the property owner and you sign a petition to be brought into the Raleigh corporate limits. So all the property owners in the rezoning request have signed the annexation petition and a rezoning petition. And we are not proposing any changes to the mobile home parks or any of the other residential properties in the area. There may be some loss of property to the area due to 540, although if you were part of that, I'm sure you have been contacted by the Turnpike Authority about that. If you are a tenant and you don't know, you can certainly contact the Turnpike Authority and find out if you are in any way going to be impacted. And I don't see any questions in the Q&A, but we can open it up to questions now.
Okay, what I'm going to do is unmute people one by one, and you can introduce yourself. And if you have a question, feel free to ask it. Is that okay, Julie?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with sorry, y'all, I'm trying to scroll through.
I think Julie might have to unmute them.
Yeah, I think she does. So if she wants to do that.
Okay, I'm just going to go down the list. I'm starting with Alex Collier.
Hi,
Alex?
y'all. I'm Alex. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, Alex Collier. We live just north of the development on Hodge. Yep, so that's us. Had a few questions. Is this the right time to ask them?
Yes.
Sure.
So in looking at some of the proposed plans, they're bringing sewer and water down Hodge to service the community. Is that something that the residents along those corridors would have access to if they're not annexed?
Hey, and I'll be glad to take that question. And hey, Alex, this is Brad Hart at WithersRavenel.
Hey, Brett.
So the city of Raleigh is in the process of a sewer extension project where they're running a major sewer line up along the east side of the Neuse River to open up that area for development. And we will be connecting to that portion of the sewer. I don't believe that the city is running any water mains in that area. However, water mains are easier to extend than sewer mains from where they terminate. And this project will be extending water mains across the frontage of Pool Road and then down Hodge Road, across our entire frontage, and then extending it into the site. So this development, and along the way, the city's standard development requirements will require us to provide stubs for water and sewer mains to the logical places upstream of them, that in adjacent properties that may in the future tie into them, and we will do so. So this project would make it a little bit easier for some of the surrounding future properties to tie into water and sewer and develop, but it would not directly do any of that at this time, if that answers your question.
And I'll just add that annexation, I don't believe you have to be annexed to get water and sewer. You do pay a higher rate if you're outside the corporate limits for those services. But I guess to get the full benefit, you would probably have to annex. And that's something that City of Raleigh staff could probably answer better than us.
All right, excellent. I guess one more follow on, just being an opinion. You know, we're kind of development out this way is, you know, an interesting thing to consider. An opinion on the roadways. Looking at your development plan, Hodge is just going to get a ton of traffic, and it's pretty tough as it is now. So I know it's up in the air, but throwing, you know, an opinion of a landholder out this way, it either cuts through to Auburn Knightdale or it has to get bigger with that development, because, you know, 2-lane median divided, I don't know that does anything for it, but it's already kind of scary out here.
That's an excellent point. And regarding the aspect, so there's a big question that's out there that's not under our control. That's amongst the Turnpike Authority, NCDOT, City of Raleigh, about the potential for Hodge Road to in the future extend to Auburn Knightdale Road to the south. And if it does extend to the south to Auburn Knightdale Road, obviously that would be great. That would open up, you know, other corridors and avenues for people to take traffic routes. And I think certainly this section of Hodge Road would be a thoroughfare and probably a 4-lane road or a 4-lane divided road. However, NCDOT's current plans for the I-540 that's going to cut through this area towards the east of this site, you know, at Auburn Knightdale Road, the design of it precludes the ability for Hodge Road to extend to Auburn Knightdale. So I believe that the City of Raleigh and other entities have opened up that discussion with DOT and the Turnpike Authority to revisit that, because there's a lot of folks that would love to see Hodge Road be able to connect to Auburn Knightdale, and that's an ongoing subject of review for the Turnpike Authority. That's going to take months and months probably before they decide what they're going to do. But what I will tell you is that the traffic study that we're required to do for this project takes all that into consideration. And you're right, depending on how certain factors unfold on the transportation plan in this area, might mean that Hodge Road has to be improved to a much wider standard than the 2-lane Collector Avenue that we described, and we acknowledge that, and we're completely okay with whichever way it goes. We're going to comply with, and we're going to go. We're sort of we're trying to help facilitate those discussions, but we're gonna, whichever way that goes, we're gonna comply with it.
And Brad, Don Belk, just let us know that he has some information to share about that. So,
Okay, cool, awesome.
so, Alex, if you don't have any other questions, we'll unmute, Don. And, if you do want to speak again, just put it in the chat, or Q&A that, you'd like to speak again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see if we can unmute Don.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to let everyone know, including the applicant, that we have held some discussions lately with representatives of NC Turn.
Don, I think we lost you for a moment.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we've had discussions recently with Turnpike and DOT. Their consultant has presented us with a couple of scenarios for making that connection. There obviously are some issues with wetlands and sensitive areas and endangered species and such. But we believe the engineer, the consultant for Turnpike, believes that we have a scenario for making that connection now. And our city transportation folks believe it is a workable alternative. So what's happening now is that Turnpike is going to send these potential connection options back through the state review agencies as part of the environmental review and get their comments on these proposed connections. And if we clear that hurdle, then the next step will be to formalize an agreement to reinstate that connection. So we're hopeful that something can be finalized on that issue within the next few months. I just wanted to update everybody that that is an active discussion, and we seem to be making very good progress toward regaining that connection. Not to go into the weeds too much, but the City of Raleigh street plan initially showed that street as a 4-lane divided avenue connecting to Auburn-Knightdale. However, the preferred alternative from NCDOT and Turnpike had cut off that connection. So that's actually been an issue that's been looked at for a number of years now, but it's only been recently that we started those discussions, and it appears that they are fruitful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don, for that clarification. And to that, I would just add that to what Don said is that this project is not proposing to reduce the category of any road or to minimize the category of any road. And it's if Hodge Road is destined to connect further south to Auburn-Knightdale, I think that would be great. And we fully recognize that it would need to be widened to a greater extent than what we've proposed in the amendment that Brendy mentioned. But we did that we proposed that based on the information that was available at the time. So this project fully recognizes that the transportation improvements that are included that might be required along the frontage, along the intersections near it. Of course, we fully acknowledge that we want to do the right thing with all those.
Okay, Caroline, looks like we might have some questions in the chat.
Yes, we've got one question. It looks like from Meg Brown. Can we unmute Meg, please, Julie? And the question is, what does the traffic study involve? And what is the purpose of the mixed use rezoning area?
Well, I'll take the first stab at that. Brendy or someone else may want to chime in. So the traffic study involves, looking at the entire parcel and the acreage that we're proposing to rezone, what we're proposing to rezone it to, what the likely traffic generating scenarios might be for there. That study has been completed in a draft format. As Brendy said early in this meeting, we've revised the scope of this project to include a couple of extra parcels that weren't included before, and those are in process of being updated now. So the traffic study was initially scoped with City of Raleigh, NCDOT, looking at this project and which intersections need to be studied, how far out you need to go beyond this area. And that area is being studied. And this project acknowledges that there will be certain aspects of that study that might require off-site improvements, being a turn lane improvement, a signal improvement, or whatever, that would be required. So those studies are still ongoing. They're not fully completed. But that's sort of the general scope of it, if that answers your question.
Okay, you had a question on mixed use also. Julie, could you go to the master plan slide? It should be second to last. So that area assigned as A, the purpose of that mixed use area is for some non-residential uses. So by non-residential, we have limited the non-residential uses to 10,000 square feet. And I'm trying to think, I believe a CVS is about 14,000 square feet. So it's really not a lot of non-residential being added to the area. It's more of a community-sized non-residential. The other use that is being proposed along A is a large amenity area for the residents of this area. We, as part of this request, we are dedicating 150 feet along the Neuse River buffer. I'm sorry, my dog's barking. We are dedicating 150 feet from the Neuse River east. And so that 150 foot is going to include a greenway easement for the city of Raleigh. Therefore, we thought that that being an area for the greenway, that would be a great site for an amenity center. It will also be near the river and a great amenity for the residents. So that's what is proposed in A. You know, there could be some residential uses in there, but the maximum square footage we have is 10,000 square feet.
So and I would like to add upon that, Brendy, and thank you. That's a very good description. So along that area designated that's in that sort of pinkish area, this area A that might be mixed use, I think the predominant use is residential, but yes, so there's greenway, there's parks. I think from the concepts that we're working through from Mungo Homes, and we're still very early in that, or hey, maybe this is a great area where if you've got some units that are multifamily or townhomes or apartments where you've got upper story features, maybe there's some, upper story co-working space. Maybe we need some coffee shops or sandwich shops or things like that, neighborhood scale residential underneath or in there. So the point is not to have, I think that the vision, not to try to lock anything in or commit or lock anything out. The vision is not to bring in retailers into this neighborhood, but to have that area designated as available for some neighborhood scale retail and commercial and mixed use opportunities, whether it's, you got an office above your townhome, or you got a coffee shop or a sandwich shop or a kayak launch or whatever with a sandwich shop that's over here that where you can launch your kayak onto the Neuse River. That was really the vision for that pod A.
We also have a few follow-up questions from Meg. Do y'all see those? They say, what do you mean by amenity? Is that a store? You kind of described that. I feel like we answered that. But how do you stop the greenway on this side? What keeps people from continuing onto existing yards? So maybe we can describe a little bit about how the greenway easement structure is structured, what is required by City of Raleigh in terms of design, etc.
So the City of Raleigh has really looked at this corridor along the Neuse. I mean, obviously we're along the Neuse River, so that's prime location for greenway. There's an existing City of Raleigh greenway on the opposite side of the Neuse River, paralleling this project. We intend to install greenway that's generally parallel to that, and perhaps we're still investigating the feasibility of connecting across the river with a pedestrian bridge to the greenway, and there's a City of Raleigh Park right across the street. So those details aren't yet determined, but those are things that are getting investigated. But in terms of amenities, we talk about, we're thinking, and by the way, I think Chris Simmering with Mungo Homes is in here. I won't speak for Chris, but I'll say that I think there's a vision that there's going to be this neighborhood scale retail area, swimming pool site, beautiful park areas that have access to the Neuse River, and perhaps access across the river to existing City of Raleigh park developments. I think the vision is for this to be a southern riverfront community type of development. Now, I'm sorry, Chris, maybe I should shut up and let you chime in.
We do have, maybe if Meg has asked to be unmuted to ask questions, I think we tried to do that earlier. Is Julie, can you do that for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess you've already asked a couple of my questions, but so as far as the greenway is or that you guys are thinking about on this side and connecting it to the other side and all of that kind of stuff, the major issue with that is that right now, the City of Raleigh is clearing 140 feet of trees along the Neuse River, which is going to give access to all of the people who already live down here. So if you guys are making a greenway, the question I had before is like, how do you stop people from continuing from your greenway that's in this area up here, from moving on and continuing down the sewer path that is 100% going to be a roadway cleared through the woods, basically, which goes through all of our land and all the way to Auburn Nightdale Road. It's going to be all the way from Anderson Point Park all the way down to Auburn Nightdale.
So the path, the greenway path should be paved only for the section on this site. And that's something we still have to work out with the city on how much of that greenway will be actually constructed. the off-site, south of this site and north of this site, shouldn't be constructed as a greenway. If people are trespassing, that's something that probably happens on a lot of easements, and I would say that's a police issue, unfortunately.
So I can tell you, Southeast Raleigh District is not going to be able to deal with people walking on properties over in this section. Southeast Raleigh police officers are already busy with gang shootings and plenty of other stuff that this is not going to be a major concern of those, like of what's happening over in this new section over here. You know? So that's another big issue, is that you bringing in, 5,000 plus houses or people, whichever it is, that, we are going to have a lot more issues on this side of the river. That I don't know if you've thought of that, or if you've talked to the police chief and know their capacity of what they can deal with, but it's not going to be something they can deal with right now with the staffing that they have, and nobody wants to be a police officer right now, so they can't hire more.
And
Yeah, I'd say that Don said that Raleigh Police Department will provide police protection to this area once it's annexed. So everybody else will still be in Wake County, but this area will be Raleigh. And so Raleigh Police does review annexation requests to determine if additional personnel is needed. I won't dispute the fact that
But what I'm saying is that they cannot fill police academies right now as it is. So them having to get additional policing is not going to happen, whether they think that it can happen or not. It's not going to.
well, one thing I would add to that is that this neighborhood eventually is intended to be similar to the neighborhoods that are on the west side of the river right now. They have City of Raleigh greenways, City of Raleigh parks on them, City of Raleigh water and sewer, and the streets are City of Raleigh where they get police protection. So we're in an area that the City of Raleigh envisions their expansion. And we want to comply with that. And so obviously, yeah, we all know you can get into a big political discussion about police and whatever, but this project is a logical expansion of where the City of Raleigh is going, in my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for Don Belk or whatever folks on here for City of Raleigh, but it would fall within the City of Raleigh. The City of Raleigh would be obligated for maintaining the water, the sewer, the police protection, the trash collection throughout this area. And just like anything else, as growth happens, they also have to grow those departments and that infrastructure to deal with that. That's part of growth.
So because we have a lot of people who want to speak, let's go ahead and go. Julie, could you unmute Alan Beach? He's had his hand raised for a while.
We also have a question from Kahit Harley. So when we get a chance, that's in the Q&A
Okay.
to discuss. So we'll get to you, Kahit, after we talk to Alan.
So, Alan, do you have a question?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My apologies for being late to the meeting. I try to get here as fast as I can out of the office. Couple of things. In regards to the Hodge Road extension, if I understand correctly, if that were to come to fruition, you want to do the 4-lane, correct?
So it depends on the whether or not there's an agreement to extend south to Auburn Knightdale Road between the City of Raleigh.
Yeah, from the DOT and 540, I got it.
Yes.
So that would require land acquisition from private landowners there as well. Have they been reached out to as far as a potential that could happen?
I would, hey, sorry, this is Brad Hart chiming in on that. So if it turns out that that is going to be the plan, and it is determined that Hodge Road needs to be a 4-lane median divided road or something of a bit larger nature, our requirement would be to widen it to that improvement along the frontage of our road. And then also, but not necessarily all the way to Pool Road or Auburn Nightdale, the intersection improvements at Pool Road or Auburn Nightdale, for instance, would be the subject of a detailed study that would say, what are our impacts there? But our requirements would be to widen it to that ultimate section that it's envisioned to be along our project's frontage, if that makes sense. Plus, there will likely be off-site improvements at other intersections outside of our project frontage.
So what about from Leonard down, where it stops at Leonard Road all the way to Auburn Nightdale? Have y'all reached out to property owners as far as like, hey, this is something potentially we're looking at? So that will require land opposition from Dr. Rayner, from Joy Hodge. So
we have not reached out to anyone south of Leonard Road. And the reason being that our project doesn't go that far, and that none of the improvements that we're looking at being able, or that the city of Raleigh might require us to do, are involved down there. So there's no aspect of this project right now that's requiring us to look at Hodge Road south of Leonard Road. However, if NCDOT and the Turnpike Authority come back and say Hodge Road is going to connect to Auburn Nightdale, then that opens that door back up, and we would be glad to study that, and we acknowledge that we would be studying that.
I guess my question related towards someone from the city of Raleigh that's in the meeting. I can't hear you, Ms. Vega. You're
Sorry, Don, could we unmute Don?
Yeah, I'm here.
So Don, if Hodge Road were to extend south to Auburn Nightdale Road, what point would the property owners be informed of that future connection or possible acquisition?
I appreciate that question. Right now, as Brad said, this proposal before us tonight, you would be responsible for building out your portion of Hodge Road. If you front Hodge Road on one side, you would have to improve half of the road. If the part of Hodge Road that bisects your proposal, you would be building out that portion completely, and it would stub at your property line. Now, the City of Raleigh street plan presently does show Hodge Road extending through as a 4-lane divided avenue. So right now, the only way that southern leg would get completed is if properties south of your proposal came in for development. Then if they came in for development and annexation, they would be required to improve their section of road. So typically that's how road development occurs in Raleigh. As growth occurs, each development builds out their portion until the road's completed. Now, in this case, if it doesn't appear that there's going to be future roads widening from private development, then the city could initiate a road project. That would involve, to answer the caller, that would involve a very detailed public process. You would be first notified by a city real estate office. There would be meetings and public hearings. Barwell Road widening is a good example of a project like that, where there's no activity. but there's a need to connect that road, and the city went ahead and got funding to initiate that project. So it would be an extensive process. Ordinarily, the road would be completed as development occurs, but it could ultimately become a city project. And yes, notification, acquisition, there would be an acquisition process whereby the city would appraise a property, make the landowner an offer. There's some negotiation there. As you know, municipalities do have the authority to condemn a private property for such road improvements. That doesn't mean they just take it and don't give you anything. They will pay you what they determine is a fair market value. That's a misconception some people have. It is called a taking. But those are extremely rare. The city tries to avoid that, of course, because of the added cost. But it is a negotiation process. Bottom line, though, it's probably going to be, depending on the pace of development south of this proposal, it could be quite a long time before that will happen.
Okay, thank you for that. My second question, because I know I jumped ahead of some people waiting to speak, particularly section F on that map we're looking at. Curiosity, what is the vision of size of homes in that particular section?
That section F is designated, that's the one area that's in the light yellow, just to be clear, that we're certain is going to be reserved for just single family detached. So in the rezoning, we haven't specified the exact minimum lot size, but in general, these are going to be, small lots, single family detached, 3-4 bedroom homes. So, 6,000-7,000 square foot lots, maybe. But not specifically called out at this level, but the vision at everything in F will be single family detached homes. Mostly in that 4-bedroom category, maybe some of them 3-bedroom is what will be there.
So are we talking starting in the 300s? I mean, it's a simple way to say it.
Chris, what do you think? Are you unmuted? Do you want to chime in on that maybe? With Chris Simmering with Mungo Homes? I think he just got me. You're good. We can hear you, Chris.
We really don't know. I would say that anywhere from the upper 2s to the mid 4s is probably the price point of this neighborhood. In the market we've got now, they would all be mid and upper 3s. But if costs stabilize and prices normalize, they could come back down to the upper 2s.
Okay, I'm Ellen. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to this other question we had that was about the commercial industry growth and movement of bigger trucks and cars together. 4 red lights in less than a mile looks bad for all. So 4 red lights, I'm assuming that Mr. Harley, that you mean traffic signals. Let's see. Are they still on the call? Someone that we could unmute here. No, I don't see. So traffic signals will be determined by the traffic impact analysis, and they won't all be installed at one time. It has to be warranted by the traffic counts, but they will probably be warranted at some point during the development. And then when that trigger is hit, at that time, the signals are installed. DOT does not allow us to preemptively install signals. That's something they, don't install signals just to install signals. I don't know if that answered your question, but please let us know if it doesn't. Then
It appears he has left the video chat. We do have another hand raised from Catherine Collier. When Brad, if you want to finish what you were saying, and then we can
No,
move along to
no,
Catherine.
no, that's fine. Please proceed.
Okay. Julie, if you can unmute Catherine for us.
Can y'all hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
So I just wanted a little clarification. Am I correct in my understanding that the widening of Hodge Road, the only portion that could or would be widened would be the portion that fronts the development, because the development then would be required to widen that portion? I think that was my understanding. And then I guess my question is, portion of Hodge Road between Pool Road, the intersection with Pool Road, and the initial road frontage of the development, who then is responsible for that? Because if it's not being annexed into City of Raleigh and it's not fronting the development, my anticipation is that that portion of Hodge Road is going to carry a really heavy burden of traffic, even with your cute little pipe stem that you think people are going to use to get full pool. The reality is that Hodge Road shoots you right to the highway. I mean, 95% of your people are going to be leaving to go somewhere, and I'm guessing it's not going to be to go out onto Pool Road to turn right to then sit at the intersection at Pool and Hodge. So who then would be responsible for the traffic study or the widening of, or the, speed tables in that first portion of Hodge Road from Pool down Hodge to the initial point of your new development?
That's a really good question. And if I was the next door neighbor, that's the question I would ask. That's a great question. So the study that we're doing, so we know that we've got to improve Hodge Road across our frontage at a minimum. And we know that at each of the intersections, like up there at Pool, for instance, that we have to study our impact and perhaps make turn lane improvements or signal improvements there. And the areas in between, it's actually dependent on the traffic study and review with NCDOT and the City of Raleigh as to just how much capacity there is there and what we're adding to it. And then if there were additional improvements in between, those would end up getting recommended in the traffic study that's required. And then the developer, in this case, Mungo Homes, would have to demonstrate that they've tried to acquire, if there were easements from adjacent landowners to widen the road or whatever, to acquire that. And that if they couldn't acquire it, then you would look to the local government authorities to help condemn that. So the developer ultimately is going to be responsible for doing all the transportation improvements that are in this surrounding area that it directly impacts. And if there's things that they need to do on other people's property that we can't directly just control and just do ourselves because we say we're going to do it, then that's where the developer would look to the municipalities and say, hey, we need to widen this. We need some more right of way from these people along their frontage. Can you help us with that? But all of those aspects are fully automatically going to be studied and analyzed as part of this project.
And Matt, who then is commissioning the traffic study, and who is conducting I mean, I guess my question is kind of, are we Mungo Homes, no offense guys, to do this out of the goodness of their heart because they now because they've now created a mile and a half backup at Pool and Hodge, and then they've got their residents zipping down Hodge, you know, at 2 a.m. trying to get home, but they really don't care because it doesn't hit their frontage.
No.
I mean, am I supposed to rely on Mungo Homes to just tidy it up because that's the right thing to
No.
do, or is Mungo Homes commissioning a third party to do the
Yes,
study?
that
Is it an objective third
that's
party, or are they being hired by Mungo Homes to determine what Mungo Homes
That's-
impact is?
no. That's a
That's
good
little
question.
suspect.
Much like we do for their consultant design for the site plans and figuring out what other kind of zoning type offsite improvements, et cetera, they might need. There's a third-party traffic consultant involved on this project. They're called Exalt Engineering. They've already done their preliminary analysis. They're expanding it to include some of the parcels that we've added that Brendy mentioned earlier. And Mungo Homes does not control what they say or what they do. They run their analysis, they base it on the data. They base it in reality, and it's got to get reviewed and concurred upon by both NCDOT and the city of Raleigh. So it's not like the developer or the engineer can just submit their own study. We can submit it. We can choose the consultant we want to use, but the studies have certain methodology. Like before you conduct the study, like before this study began, Exalt, the transportation consultant, Exalt Engineering, they had to meet with City of Raleigh transportation staff, NCDOT transportation staff, look at the overall scope and magnitude of the project, the type of traffic it's going to generate, and agree upon how far out the study goes, which intersections it looks at, how in depth and what specific elements the study are going to look at. And that's what we have to study. And so you've got also City of Raleigh and NCDOT that have to review that study in their report. And if there's things in it that they feel like shouldn't have been addressed, but should, they'll comment on that and they'll make sure that it gets addressed before they'll approve it. So ultimately, the City of Raleigh and NCDOT have a process in place that makes sure that our traffic study, from just a non-developer's perspective, has to be objectively reviewed and concurred upon before it's allowed to move forward to the planning board in City of Raleigh.
Okay, and what happens then when it does span jurisdiction? Because I mean, if purely the development is becoming City of Raleigh, I understand where the City of Raleigh would have stake in what happens on what are now becoming City of Raleigh roads. But in the portion that is not annexed, the portion that remains Wake County, does NCDOT then kind of speak up for that portion of the road?
Well,
or is there an advocate for the Wake County portion of Hodge Road that Mungo doesn't have to touch and the City of Raleigh doesn't have to deal with?
well, so the entirety of this particular project would be annexed into City of Raleigh. So much of the surrounding area would still remain in the county. However,
right.
The traffic study would look at the existing land use compared to the proposed land use plan of the city compared to our proposed rezoning and figure out what's fair for us to have to upgrade. So if someone were, so in theory, if someone were to come in and just develop whatever you did within the county allowable zoning district, in theory, it should just be fine without having to do other transportation upgrades. But when you're looking to rezone and looking to maybe re-intensify, what might happen is where you got to study it and you might have to do extra improvements like we acknowledge that we're probably going to have to do here. So I would say that if anything, this project is going to make sure that Hodge and Pool and stuff around there are going to get improved to what they need to be versus whatever they are now.
Right. I understand that Mungo then has the obligation to maintain or improve the road that they control, and then the portion that they, I guess my question is then the portion that they impact, like if this development has an impact on the portion of Hodge that is not annexed and is not controlled by Mungo, who is responsible for that road improvement? Does Mungo then have to improve the road? Let's just pretend all the way up to the pool intersection if it is determined that their development has an impact on the road usage and traffic patterns up to that intersection, even if they don't control that portion of the road frontage, and even if that portion of the road frontage is not within the city of Raleigh.
Yeah, so it could be that there's a portion of the all-site frontage between the northern edge of this project and Pool Road. It could be that as a result of the traffic study, that it's say you need to improve the whole thing all the way up to Pool. In which case, there's such a skinny right-of-way there to a little two-lane road, you wouldn't be able to do that without acquiring easements and right-of-way for the landowners who own the property that goes up to the road. So if that were the case, Mungo Homes would approach those landowners and say, the city and DOT want us to widen this road in front of your house and your house and your house and your house between here and here. And if those people said, okay, and we'll sign the easements and give you the area to do it, it would get done. If they don't, then the developer would go back to the city and say, we tried, can y'all get the easements for us? In which case we'll still do it or whatever. So there's the point being, you say, who's responsible? I think the developers of this project, Mungo Homes, WithersRavenel, whatever, we recognize that this is a large project and it's going to have traffic improvements and road widening and things like that. And that nobody's running from that. Nobody's hiding from that. There's studies in place that we're going to follow those, and whatever it says needs widened, needs improved, we're going to look at it. And if we don't have direct control or ability just to widen ourselves within the public right of way or property that the developer owns, then they would look to the adjacent landowners. And if they don't consent, then perhaps look towards an eminent domain situation. But the developer of this project is absolutely going to be required to mitigate the traffic impacts that the property creates.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you. Everyone kept talking about if and when it goes through to Auburn Knightdale.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it doesn't, that's a whole lot of extra people coming out at
But
Hodge and Pool.
I sort of hope it does, because I think it would be great to have that north-south connection out to Auburn Knightdale Road. I think that would be awesome if it could.
I think it'd be amazing. Just add some speed tables, and I'll sign on the dotted line.
Yeah.
So,
Totally agree.
Thank you.
so I don't know that the city of Raleigh allows speed tables, but they do have traffic calming. So that's something, when you have a long stretch of road like this, traffic calming is definitely a tool you want to use to slow the speeds down. So we have been asked, could you unmute Meg Brown? And Meg, while you're being unmuted, for you or anyone else, if we don't answer your questions here, feel free to reach out to us, and after the meeting, I'll give you my contact information.
Okay, I got your email. So Catherine actually asked some of the questions that I already asked, and I actually have to get going. So thank you for coming back to me, but I'll just send you the rest of my email, my questions through email.
Okay, and if anybody wants to not ask questions in a public meeting, we're happy to take those offline. Public speaking is not everybody's friend, and so you know, do reach out to us. We're happy to have those conversations with you one-on-one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if anybody else, it looks like Alan's hand is raised again.
Hey there.
Hey,
Hey.
Alan.
Sorry, my phone was ringing at the worst possible time.
You're good, man. No sweat.
I know things have changed. I was in the last meeting. I'm just wondering if there's any change. What is the timeline for each part of the project?
Well, we were discussing that earlier today, Alan, and
Oh, I was late. I'm sorry. Y'all can slap me later.
no, we didn't discuss it
You're
here.
fine.
We
Oh,
were discussing
you're
it
fine.
internally.
So Alan, we're envisioning, you know, it's very difficult to predict because it's sort of a lengthy process, but we're envisioning that by the fall of next year, we would have construction approvals for the first phase of this development. And that so that maybe in November, December last year, or excuse me, next year, you might see dump trucks moving out here and clearing trees and getting started. And then after that, you know, we're probably looking at several years because it's a large project to finish it out, but probably close to 17, 15, 16 months to getting started with actual construction if things go well.
I guess I'm asking specifically because I live down on the bottom side of 4. I'm on Leonard. I'm wondering
Okay.
when I'm wondering if possible, if this will all happen in Felicia, when will I have new neighbors?
Yeah, I can tell you that the portion of the phase, so the first phase that's going to happen is almost certainly going to be more towards Pool in the northern section, and the area down towards Leonard Drive might happen in the second or third phase, but it's probably going to be a few years out. So most of what's going to happen in the next, let's say, year, 2 years, 3 years is probably going to be north of you and more than likely not directly next to Leonard Road. Don't hold me to that, but
I
I'm telling you,
understand.
that's sort of what we're visioning right now.
That's in a perfect world when everything goes great. Yes, I
Right.
understand.
Sure, sure.
So
We
it
do
may be,
have I'm sorry, we do have a phasing plan that has been submitted as well. I can, you know, that's, so just so you know, the part south and is shown in one phase all the way to beyond where the cell tower is. So like Brad said, we don't know the order yet, but we did submit a phasing plan, and I can share that with you if you want to email one of us. And it might also be on the City of Raleigh zoning website. You should be able to view everything we've submitted to date website.
okay, I can do that.
So part of what we recognize is that relatively early on in the project, because right now this area is on somewhat of a peninsula, as the city of Raleigh refers it to, where you come down Hodge Road from the intersection of Pool Road and there's like no other way in or out. And so as we build more out there, you need another way in or out. So what's been made clear to us from the city is that we need to get that second connection, which is through the area that's shown as area G on here, out to Pool Road, relatively early in the project. So if you look at what's going on there, it makes sense that we're probably going to develop the north half or the north third of the project first, because that's where the main infrastructure is that it's going to have to be completed anyway. And then maybe work our way central, south, and east. But obviously all that's subject to revision, but that's what we're thinking right now.
Right. And maybe you can comment on this too, because we kind of made comments about it or hinted around it. I attended the City of Raleigh meeting as it relates to this project as well. And they said that the zoning application is current contingent upon that Hodge Road gets extended to Auburn Knightdale. And so that's a game changer, if you ask me.
I do not believe, I'm not sure where that information came from, but I'm pretty sure that our
Directly from the City
rezoning
of Raleigh planning.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that our rezoning application is not dependent on what Hodge Road does in the future to the south or not. There's a separate comprehensive transportation plan amendment that we have that is specific to the plans of Hodge Road, but that's still in flux between what City of Raleigh, NCDOT, Turnpike Authority decide. But the rezoning itself is not contingent upon a particular, as submitted, is not contingent upon a particular designation or classification for Hodge Road.
Thank you.
So Alan, and to everyone on the call, there is a lot going on with the city. So what you may have heard in one meeting may have gotten jumbled with something else. You know, you have the 540 expansion, you have the southeast area study, you have the sewer interceptor, you probably have some other studies going on. So there's a lot going on and a lot of meetings, but to get anything clarified on the city side, our assigned planner is Don Belk, who spoke earlier, and I put his name in the chat. I didn't mean to put it in 3 times, but he can answer those questions for you or confirm that, you know, that's not the case. What we knew was that the project could not happen without a connection out, a second connection out. We made that connection to Pool Road. Originally, it was just the road, and now it's the whole parcel. But a second connection out could have been to Auburn Knightdale Road, but it turns out it's another connection to Pool Road.
Well, and really, the connection to Pool Road was something that Raleigh envisioned on their thoroughfare plan, and a connection that we knew we needed. And the connection out to Auburn Knightdale Road would just be like icing on the cake, you know, better connectivity throughout the community as a whole. But no matter what, we feel like at least in the short, even in the future, that connection to Auburn Knightdale Road might be many years in the future. The connection to the second connection up to Pool Road was going to be needed in the short term relative to this development, just to get more than one way in and out and decent connectivity. And so that's what helped us develop the phasing to generally do the north side first.
Okay, Catherine, I see your hands back up. I don't know if it ever went down, but we're gonna, just in case. Catherine, did you intend to have your hand up?
Sorry, I'm driving. I did not. I believe it was just still up, but I do have a quick question. Someone, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was that had answered my question, said that Raleigh doesn't do speed tables, but Raleigh does like some other thing, and there was a term, and I'm unfamiliar with that term. They
Traffic,
don't do- Say that again?
traffic calming.
Yes, traffic calming. Is that like a nice southern way to say a speed bump, or?
No, that's I guess a term used by engineers and planners to calm traffic. So if you Google traffic calming, you'll see all kinds of things.
Well,
But the city of
I
Raleigh,
was saying,
particular ones they use. And sometimes a neck down where they shrink the road down a little bit. Sometimes it's putting a little median in that kind of slows people down. There are lots of different things. What NCT will allow on their road is probably different than what the city of Raleigh would allow.
so I would add to that a little bit. I'm not sure when you took that one, it sounds like maybe that was Catherine, but anyway, I'll follow up on that. So traffic calming, it's a product of doing narrower roads, curvier roads, taking roads that are wider and putting a narrowing section into them where you slow people down, or a traffic circle or speed bumps or just things to calm people down while they're driving through a neighborhood, to make it not easy for people to speed through a neighborhood. I think that's what Brindy was saying, was that those kind of measures, we are highly encouraged to incorporate those these days.
Right, and I've lived in a neighborhood with those measures, and they work for people who are visiting the neighborhood for the first time. They do not work for people who are familiar with the road and can just zip on down, zip to the left, zip to the right. So I was just curious if there was any other measure for people who are familiar with driving the road to slow them down. That's it. Those are the only real options that the city of Raleigh lets you have.
So in other words, you mean people like me who've already learned that you can go exactly 27 miles an hour over a speed bump and it's still okay?
It's kind of like, you can always tell when you're behind someone who's never been on that particular country road before because they're driving it slow. But if you've driven that country road your entire life, you can go 70 and go wherever the curve is.
You've already figured out what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what traffic calming is those things. Okay.
So,
got it.
Yeah, that's right. Traffic calming is trying to institute structural
obstacles that make you think
things
about
built
what you're
into the
doing.
roadway design that specifically discourage and reduce speeding. So yeah, we don't want speeding.
Okay.
Nobody wants speeding. Mungo doesn't want speeding in their neighborhoods. They want safe neighborhoods too. So yeah, I think without a doubt, when you dig in, right now we're looking at rezoning. We're trying to figure out what density is appropriate for this side of town and what kind of land uses are we talking about. We're talking about small lot, single family development, townhomes, potentially a pod for apartments. We're just trying to figure out whether or not that's appropriate for this part of the city. All of those details that you just described, we want to make sure they happen too. Traffic calming, things like that. No developer wants speeding through their neighborhood.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And now my hand is not raised anymore. So, the meeting.
It appears we have some questions that were sent privately. Be sure that when you're sending your questions, you put them not private to everyone in the chat. If you can do that, that would be really helpful, especially if you can put them in the Q&A box. That helps us even more. So just make sure you're not sending it to just one person, because we can't tell if everyone's receiving them or not. I believe we have a question from Danielle and Alexander, and Paul has his hand raised.
All right, I will start with Danielle's questions. that were in the chat here. Just a couple. How much of this housing is designated for low-income families? There is a significant volume of low-income housing on the side of the greenway, and the neighborhood is littered beyond imagination. I fear that this will be where there will be a high concentration of low-income residents.
We are not
Good.
proposing any low-income housing in this project. There may be some more affordable, but everybody's definition of affordable. Brad wants to speak, so I'm going to let him speak.
I want to speak. I was just going to ask Brendy, Jill, could y'all unmute Chris Sebring so that he could speak on behalf of Mungo Homes, the developer? And, my thinking is that, this neighborhood, I believe, I'll let Chris speak to it, but I believe that this neighborhood is not intended to be crazy, exclusive. It's intended to have a little bit of something for everybody, but I'll reserve that for Chris to speak to as the builder and developer.
I didn't hear the whole question. I heard something about low income people.
So Chris, the question is, really, is this community going to have opportunity for everybody? Is it going to be a whole bunch of low income versus is it going to be somewhere where people from, a variety
Certainly not.
of
This is a
price points
this is a
can come to live?
destination. This is a destination neighborhood into which we're investing well over $100 million. There will be no low income anything in there. It will be solid. Probably first time you move up people to some very high end things in there.
So in planner speak, there won't be any low income subsidized housing. If it's affordable, that term gets used a lot. So it may be affordable to somebody, a $200,000 home may be more affordable to some people than a $400,000 home. So affordability, yeah, it may have some affordable housing if you define that range affordable. But there is no intention to provide subsidized low-income housing.
And there
We
won't be any
also,
$200,000 homes in there either.
I would also point out there is a diversity of housing options. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are subsidized or affordable units involved.
I think they will be diversified. I think everything in this neighborhood, from some of the things on more detail that we're looking at with Mungo, beyond the level of detail you're seeing, but in concept plan that we're doing, we're talking about lots of small lot, single family, lots of Charleston style and rear loaded product townhomes, single family, some traditional front load single family. There's a little bit of everything for everybody in this neighborhood. And I think that this neighborhood wants to be great and to put a little bit of everything for everybody and actually mix up a little bit of a complete variety of product. This is a large project. This is 500 and something acres. This is an opportunity for Mungo Homes to showcase what they do and to put a little bit of every product that they offer out here. And I think that that's what they want to do. And there's a little pod for everything. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool.
Julie, who was next? Did you have any other people? in
Alex
the
Collier
private chat?
is next.
Okay,
And
okay,
mute him real quick, and then we can go to Paul Howard.
okay, great, thank you.
Oh, hey, y'all. Good to talk to you again. I just had a question about if you are controlling or limiting the number of rentals in the neighborhood.
That's a great question, because there's a misconception that that there's any way development can control or the city can control rental. So whether or not people purchase the homes and then decide to rent them out, that's not something that can be controlled. And there's no way for the city under state, I believe probably federal law, that you can pick rental over or home ownership over rental. You know, we hope that people are homeowners. There will be some rental opportunity in the multifamily area. But, you know, there's really no way to control that.
So is there no planned HOA for the neighborhood?
There is, yes.
There,
Okay, well, I mean, I've everywhere I've ever lived has had that in the HOA contract.
I don't know if Mungo is planning on putting that into their contract, but I don't think
So
that would be enforceable.
it's not enforceable legally. A no rent clause in an HOA is not enforceable. So you can put it in there and hope that people just abide by it. But if it ever gets challenged by a lawyer, it's a non-enforceable clause.
Fair enough. So is the plan to include that or to not? Because, you know, sometimes deterrence
No.
is 90% of the.
We do not include it in ours.
Okay. So conceivably, we could have a large portion of this bought up by wealthy investors and just used as short-term rentals.
Conceivably.
Well, what do you, short-term rentals, in Raleigh definition is like Airbnb. So I don't believe you'd ever get that approved. But you mean like leased out?
Well, yeah, you month to month or yearly, annually, but essentially, I think everybody on the call knows what I mean by a rental. It's nothing wrong with it, and I've definitely been in many neighborhoods that say, you know, no more than 10% of the neighborhood can be a rental, or jurisdictions, as the case may be. But yeah, it's a different concern for the people that border the property.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, unfortunately, that's, I believe housing discrimination law. I can't think of the name of it right now. Maybe Caroline knows. It just doesn't allow for that type of clause, or like Chris said, it's just not enforceable.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can't, home ownership can't be regulated, especially not by zoning law. So where we're at in this plan, you can't, say, oh, well, we can't approve this because there's going to be X, Y, Z% of renters or any renters. That's just not something that the government is permitted to control. Whether an HOA, you know, slips that into their regulations or not, like we were saying, you know, that's not enforceable in a court of law. So yeah, there's definitely federal and state regulations that are beholden to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's the Fair Housing Act now. It came to me. So
Yes.
I can look that up and get that back to you. But I believe that's where it is.
I mean, to me, I'll look at this and I go, is this intended to be a great big massive rental community? I think the answer is no. Could there be rentals in here? Obviously, the answer is yes. like we just said. But, you know, this is, I think this is, you know, that's not what it's intended to be. It's intended to be, you know, a neighborhood for sale. But could that happen? Yes. Somebody could come in and buy a whole bunch of those and rent them out. They could.
Okay,
Okay, I'm going to unmute Paul Howard now. He has had his hand up for quite some time. One moment.
Paul, you're,
Hi, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, this might be something that you guys have gone over earlier. I joined a little bit late, so I apologize. But I'm looking at the picture on the screen and just wondering if you could describe a little bit more about what the section marked A is about. On the pink.
Sure. So we've included some mixed use in this area, and our plan shows this as just because there may be residential intermingled with some non-residential. We have capped the non-residential at 10,000 square feet, so it'd be local neighborhood business type non-residential. And just to give you an idea, like a CVS store or Walgreens is typically about 14,000 square feet. So if that gives you a little bit better gauge, so it's a little bit smaller than that. An amenity site would be included in this, and it could be work units. So that's what we mean by mixed use.
And I would just add to that, like what Brindy said, just for putting in scale, a Walgreens is 14,000 square feet, and we're talking about 10,000 square feet. We're not talking about a 10,000 square foot Walgreens. The vision here is 2 or 3 or 4 small neighborhood scale residential or non-residential components, like sandwich shop, maybe a little office space, maybe a little bit, you know, something commercial, coffee shop, something that's not purely residential, so that this neighborhood has somewhere that you can go to in the community center and buy something, get a sandwich, get some coffee. Maybe you do your dry cleaning. Maybe you do, you know, I don't know what it is, but it's not to have a Walgreens. It's not to have a CVS. It's the intent is to have the ability to put a little bit of non-residential / commercial in this neighborhood to support the neighborhood. That's really what the intent is.
Okay. How about the non business part of it? Is what type of dwellings are going to go in there?
There's right now the plan has a mixture of really everything. Mungo Homes has a very wide palette, and Chris Simmering may want to speak to this in a minute.
I mean, I'm just referring to section the A, the one marked.
Oh,
as A.
okay. In just section A, probably townhomes and or something that's more condominium looking. Do you want to maybe modify that description, Chris?
Or in the mixed use stuff?
Yeah, in that area A, where the pink area A over by the river, where there might be some mixed use. What kind of residential do you see there?
Oh, I mean, it would probably be the townhomes or the row homes.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's the
thanks.
city center, so that's gonna be the really high-end, bustling area over there, so that would be, Probably high density, oh, because it's near the amenity area, but it would be high end stuff. We're really trying to bring the river feel into that area, so probably the row homes.
Yeah, and what's happening in the floodplain there? Are you guys building that up, or it looks like there's a path there? Or
No, yeah, no, that's a good question. We're not really proposing to develop in the floodplain or whatever, or fill it in or to impact any of that. The city of Raleigh, their greenway plan does show that they want a public greenway up through that corridor along the side of the river, because it's the newest river. So we're gonna accommodate that. They show a wide, very wide easement area of 150 feet where they want us to build a greenway through there, which we're agreeing to do. But really that area that's down in the floodplain, down in the low lying area next to the creek is going to be left natural. But what we're viewing is really making this neighborhood signature where you can get access to the river. So maybe there's a kayak launch. Maybe there's stuff like that where we're not planning on impacting the floodplain or develop it in that area, but that's going to be park area, beautiful area. That's where you can go and launch your kayak and do things like that.
okay, thanks.
Okay, I have a couple more questions here in the chat. This went a little bit earlier, but I missed it. Brad mentioned a sewer line that will come up Pool Road. My question is, which side of Pool Road would the line be added, the trailer park side or the residential homes?
So the sewer line is the city of Raleigh's proposed sewer interceptor line that they're constructing that's going to ultimately serve this project is running along the Neuse River, generally along the area where we talked about the Greenway, running right along the east side, or excuse me, the west side of the Neuse River, and the east side, sorry. And now Hodge Road, if you had a bigger map and you were able to zoom out, if you will, and look a little bit further south of this property, you'll see that the Neuse River has a curve in it, and that there's a portion of this property, the eastern portion of this property tends to drain off towards a different part of the Neuse River that the city of Raleigh's sewer main will serve. However, it won't serve it as easily and directly, like it would require offset improvements to get there. So in the short answer, the city of Raleigh's plans that they're doing in the short term are going to bring sewer right to this project. But the eastern part of this project is still going to have to figure out something for sewer. That's not as easy, but that is still facilitated by this project as a whole. And I hope that makes sense.
Chris, there's a question. Any comparable existing Mungo communities in the area that could be viewed as an example of the development that will be here?
So this is much larger in scale than anything we currently have going. So there'll be more products here and it'll be a much larger development. I would say, Kitchen Farms might be the most similar thing that we have going on. That's up in Wake Forest, has these Charleston style row homes. Although they're further apart there than what we envision here. Here we plan to try to make them adhere as closely to what you would see in Charleston as possible. So to get them fairly close together. But that type of home is what we'll probably have there. There's no townhomes up in Kitchen Farms for you to see. But we currently don't, we've redesigned all of our townhome product and we have not built it anywhere, so there's nowhere to see it yet.
But I would tell you that in Kitchen Farms, and I'm familiar with the project Chris is speaking of, they've also got, instead of just the Charleston style, some traditional front load product that are on larger lots that are the traditional, what you would think of, and this project is going to have some of that as well. So I guess I'm just saying Kitchen Farms, that sounds like a great example.
Yeah, Kitchen Farms is the best
Burlington
example
Mills
we have.
Road, yeah.
Unfortunately, there's just no townhomes there to see. And of course, the amenities at this neighborhood will be much larger in scale than what you'll see up there. But that's the closest one we've got.
It looks like we have another question from Catherine when we get a chance.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. I don't think I'm pushing anything. I had asked a question in the Q&A and y'all just answered it. So I don't have another verbal question, but it's always lovely to say hello. So
hello.
Awesome, thank you. It looks like we have a question from Alan. Or is this, oh, no, we don't. Just kidding. Yes, we do. Alan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was trying to unclick it so I don't forget. So you don't. I'm sorry. I'm just doing all the wave. I had to step away, and I'm sorry. Has all property highlighted in these project presentation been acquired by Mungo Homes, or is some of that stuff still pending sale?
Julie, could you go to the slide that outlines each parcel? And Brad, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, the ones outlined in yellow, and obviously Chris Simmering being the developer, the owner who's acquiring the land, could add to this. What I'm going to tell you is that a portion of it, probably about a third of it, has been actually acquired, but there's still a few pieces of it that are under contract that have not yet been formally closed on, but all of it is under contract with the landowners that are completely on board. And so there's half of it that's been acquired and half of it that's getting ready to be acquired soon. Is that fair, Chris?
From a developer standpoint, it's all acquired. We control it all. We could close on it at any time. And it's under contract. So yes, it's all acquired.
Random question with that. I guess this is directed towards you, Chris. Is there project manager, developer manager that I can speak with as far as regarding the property that's behind me? So a specific question I'll ask outside of the meeting. Do you have that info?
You want Mungo's information or who's?
Yeah, I mean, I guess whoever the representative would be for this, I guess, Section F property that's acquired that property from Mr. Adams.
So we're so far away from having any specific details to discuss that we don't have anybody assigned to this project, man. The best person at this point to ask any questions about it would be the Withers team that you're speaking with now.
Yeah, just contact us. If we can't answer your question, we'll see if Mungo to.
And
I guess I'll ask it here if that'll work. To simplify this, I had previous agreement with the landowner before he passed, and of course the family. Over the course of, I don't know, past several years of living here, I've been riding my ATV to the river back there. I just want to make sure I don't disturb anything by continuing to do so. Obviously, if it's under construction, I'll quit doing that.
I would tell you that you need to quit doing it.
Okay.
Our insurance doesn't allow it. And if somebody from Mungo Homes was to see you out there, they would call the police.
Okay. Perfect.
I see, Catherine, did you enter a question or am I seeing an old something here? I can't see the Q&A.
I see Catherine on there, but it looks like she's
Okay.
still muted.
So is there any reason they didn't acquire all the property up to pool on Hodge?
I'm sorry, Brandy. Could you repeat that? Because I might be able to answer that. I just want to make sure I heard the question right. Could you repeat that?
Any reason they didn't acquire all the property up to pool along Hodge?
The owners don't want to sell.
Yeah, I think
tried.
Mungo Homes. Yeah, and Chris was answering that. I'll answer it too. And Chris and I can talk back and forth. Mungo would love for this project to be bigger because it's in a great location, and particularly up there at Pool and Hodge. But you can only buy the properties that people are willing to sell.
Okay, it looks like we have a couple questions that Alex had. What company is designing building the multifamily units? From what I understand, there is nobody yet for that.
On the multifamily, so there is an area, that area that's designated C, that might be multifamily, meaning could be apartments. There is no particular apartment developer builder on board right now. Our discussions with some of the developers in the area have indicated that they think that might be a good location for an apartment site. So, but there is no particular developer on board at this time, and those are still in the early stages of ongoing discussions with Mungo and folks that might be interested in that.
So Alexander, you asked who's being tasked with the multifamily units. It's not Mungo. Right, Mungo does not do multifamily. Would a percentage of the units be retained by the developer as rentals? I don't believe so, but I'll defer to the team for that.
No.
So, or that's coming from Chris Simmering. So yeah, from Mungo.
I wouldn't rule out that we would sell several of them to a rental company that buys residential houses and rents them. We have done a good bit of that. We do not rent out houses. We don't retain them and rent them out. So everything that we do here will be sold.
Okay, and we just have a few minutes left, so I'm going to, Julie, could you put up the last slide? For anybody who has questions yet that didn't get answered, or if you think of something after the meeting, Don, like I said, Don Belk is our staff person at the City of Raleigh handling this rezoning. And there's his email address. If you want to email us here at WithersRavenel, if we don't know the answer, we will find out who does know the answer. But, you know, we can try to answer your questions or get information. And please do, if you have any more questions, go ahead and email us. And, you know, if there was something you didn't get a chance to ask here, or if something comes up, you know, if you hear any rumors, any information that you want to confirm with us, please do. We are being very transparent and not trying to hide anything. So please contact us if you have any questions. And we will be having a second neighborhood meeting. So that one, the city of Raleigh is requiring us to have in person. Right now, we're looking at September 16th at the Barwell Road Community Center. If you have gotten a notice previously, you will get a notice for that one as well. So, you know, if you don't want to come to that meeting, please reach out to us ahead of time. You know, happy to answer any questions for you. And Brad, I don't know if you wanted to say anything, or Chris, before we sign off.
No. I mean, I sort of feel like it was a good meeting. I feel like we had some good questions that were pointed towards specific things. They were really good questions, and hopefully we answered them. And what we couldn't answer, I think everybody knows what's still yet to be determined.
Yeah, and like I said, you can find our information on the WithersRavenel website. The website that you linked to come to this meeting. This meeting has been recorded, and we will post it on that page. If you want to, you know, make sure that you missed something and you want to see if it was covered. But if you don't want to roll through a bunch of video on your computer, just go ahead and call us. And it's 7 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Don Belk asked when we are planning on having our second neighborhood meeting. We're looking at the 16th of September, Don, although we need to confirm that we can get a room at Barwell Community Center, and we need to confirm that they are having in-person meetings allowing us there. And as you know, we have to make sure that we're not in conflict with any of your meetings. So thank you. We will be reaching out then if you're going to help us set that up. All right. Thanks, and have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks, Brendy.